Hey everyone, welcome back on this 19th edition of the FISE World Montpellier. I'm Dom Granger. I'm here with Daryl now. Daryl, how's it going?
It is going amazing. Yesterday we had an opportunity to talk a little bit about the energy here at FISE. This is my first experience. I know it's number 19, but the energy of the fans is outrageous. It's so cool to see this experience firsthand.
You see how many people there is on the site all day. It's just amazing. And today we're starting a new discipline that didn't start yet on the FISE. We're going for BMX flat. It's a very popular discipline for the crowd. They love to go watch it, and we love it too, of course. It's a bit of a different setup, right?
Absolutely. So BMX flat, to all of our fans out there who obviously are fans of action sports but have never had an opportunity to see BMX flat before, it's almost, I guess, akin to breakdancing, so to speak. A rider really has a lot of self-expression where they get the chance to the opportunity to work within the bike and see what kind of tricks that they want to do. And the way we're breaking it down, Dom, we have 14 riders. They're each going to get one run apiece. That's 3 minutes on the clock. And the thing that the judges are going to be looking for is creativity. That's a very important part out there. And a rider could really utilize any aspect of the bike that he wants to. He could stand on the pedals, on the pegs, on the handlebars, and really kind of create his own style out here. So as you mentioned, it's a new discipline that we're having, but at the same time, there's such a creativity and kind of a soul aspect because it's so technical and it's so advanced. It's great to see a rider kind of put his own spin on it, pun intended.
So we have some riders on the course here who have been here for a really, really long time. Alex Jumelin is one of them. I think he is the only rider and maybe the only person with the FISE organizers who did all 19 FISE events. So that is quite amazing. He is still riding at such a high level. He has been pushing the sport, and like you said, it's all BMX flat is all about technicality. So we have riders. We always compare them to a bit like samurais. Like they have to work so hard to achieve one trick. So pretty impressive discipline, definitely.
That's definitely a very good point you put. So for example, myself, I'm a lifetime BMX rider. My entire life I've been riding. I can't even link together one of these tricks that these guys are doing out there. And that's not a level of my riding. That goes for most riders that you see doing crazy backflip, tail whips, all different tricks and variations. If you wind up taking any of that flat skill, and the reason why it takes such discipline and so much focus to really find those balance points on your bike. So Flatland, again, in the late 70s, early 80s, really came into its own. Bob Harrow was one of the originators, and then you wind up seeing a progression of it throughout the years. So in the beginning, it was a lot of endo tricks and kind of bouncing in one place, and then all of a sudden you started to have Kevin Jones and the plywood hoods out in eastern PA. They wind up going to scuffing tricks, which we'll see, where a rider, instead of just being stationary, can use their foot to wind up going forward or backwards. And then when we're talking into modern day, obviously you had guys like Chad Groot who wound up pushing the sport, but modern day what we're seeing a lot is no brakes on the bike, a lot of rolling, and a lot of styles. And you mentioned talking about the future of BMX and where we're at right now. We're also going to see guys like Matthias Dandois, who wound up is almost a protege of Alex Jumelin, and he really ushered in a new style where it's kind of a hybrid, where you're almost seeing some elements of BMX street mixed in. It's really interesting to see.
Absolutely. And one thing that we noticed with BMX flat is the crowd loves it, and there's a big wow factor. But remember, when you watch BMX flat, when you hear the crowd cheering, often is for tricks that are spinning really, really fast, but that might not score very high because it is much easier for riders to keep their balance when they go fast and when they go slow. So keep that in mind while you're watching, because it's a very interesting fact with that, because it makes you able to understand a little bit more the points and everything. So we can see our judges here getting ready to watch the show as well.
Yeah, they're going to be really looking for the technical factor that you were talking about. We're taking a look at some of our crowd out here building on in, but that technical aspect of BMX flat, especially in the last few years, the progression has gotten pushed so far that actually a lot of the tricks almost don't even have names to this point, because riders will literally just come up with their own style, something on the fly, and it's almost hard to say, hey, who did this first, who did that, because you have such almost like a hodgepodge of different styles out there and so many riders. So for example, in Japan, flatland is huge, especially in Europe, it's big as well, and you have these different scenes that go on. And a lot of riders ride by themselves. They're not even documenting their footage because they're so dedicated to it. So it's really interesting to see. And almost in modern day flatland, there's not a lot of trick names, believe it or not, where it's really just about a rider's flow and style and just kind of interlacing. So again, we're going to be walking everyone through, but we're taking a look at the man right there, Alex Jumelin.
So he's explaining a little bit how the contest is going to go down to the crowd. He is always so involved in BMX and in the scene for BMX. So we're going to have each riders go one after the other, and for 3 minutes run. It's pretty, the hat trick, look at this. So this is just a little bit of practice before we start, kind of a pre-show for everyone. And it's going to be a long 3 minutes for these riders in the sunshine like this, because we have an amazing day here in Montpellier. Look at this crowd. They're just so happy to be here, sitting, sunbathing, watching an awesome show, and getting ready to see some flatland action.
Yeah, Dom, I really have to express this to you and to everybody around the world who's watching. I've never been to an event like FISE where it's so many fans integrated within the city, and that energy is unbelievable. I had a chance to watch a little bit of BMX park qualifying, and I couldn't even believe the amount of energy. But the great thing with FISE, action sports, the center stage. Every single sport, every discipline, it's by the riders, for the riders, and they are on the main platform. And it's so cool because the fans get a chance to interact. And we're in this gorgeous downtown setting right on the river, and it's just unbelievable the energy that you could feed off with the crowd.
Absolutely, and like you said, we're on the river here. As you can see, the flatline zone, just like a lot of the parks, are on the edges of the river, and the riverbanks does kind of a natural stadium for people to go sit and watch what is happening.
Now, we're talking about the natural element as well. One thing we have to address is this wind. You can see the flags a little bit there. It's actually a pretty strong wind out there, and when a rider is so precise depending on their balance, any style wind, whether it's a headwind or backwind, is going to affect not only their rolling speed, but also how they have to interact on the bike. So I have a feeling that's going to play a very big role. But the one thing, Dom, is that all riders are an even playing field here, so everyone's got to be battling the elements.
Yeah, that is a true statement, and the wind is not a consistent one either. It's very gusty. It's called here, I believe, it's the Tramontane wind. So it comes from the mountain, it comes from the land. It's difficult too because it chills the temperature a little bit as well, and so it's kind of the hot, cold, and that can be quite interesting. It's nice. It's nice to cool down when you're in the sunshine, but then sometimes the cloud's going to come by and then make things quite chilly. And so the riders have to deal with that. You know, if you're all sweaty and then all of a sudden you get a little bit of a chill and you have to go back and ride, it's challenging for your muscle and for your body.
Well, that's such an important part, is also your natural terrain and element. So you mentioned that the riders are going to have time on the clock. It looks like maybe it actually started at 2:30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. We have our first rider from Seoul, Lee Hee-byung. So we're going to see some of that Asian style here, because Asians are, like you said earlier, very into flatland riding. We had a few Japanese guys last year as well who did awesome. Different riding style, obviously, from one continent to the other.
Yeah, there's a really big scene out there, and it's very supported. Almost in any park that you go out to, you'll wind up seeing riders, getting on that front wheel right there. So one thing I also want to highlight right now, Dom, if you look at the bike style, definitely looks like a traditional street setup. Where I mean by that, as far as where the bar placement, the top tube length, where flatlander bikes traditionally, starting way back in the 80s, were definitely a little bit tighter geometry, allowing for spinning. But a rider who we'll see coming up, Matthias Dandois, definitely helped usher in taking more of a street-style bike. and bring it to flat. Look at this right here on that back peg, rotating around. Oh, unfortunately touching down a little bit.
And it's a tough thing too. Like that's where we're gonna see like riders like Alex Jumelin almost never put their feet on the ground. They're gonna go for a trick, go for a combo trick, and stomp it on the pedal to really like close up the circle of the trick, and then start for another one and link the tricks that way. So it's really cool to watch. And it takes so much dedication to be able to learn these tricks. Some of the guys like will work for like 3 years every single day on one trick.
Yeah, that dedication and being able to link everything together. So right there you see on the rear peg pumping around for speed. Unbelievable.
Oh, in the river? No.
Almost going off the course right there. But Dom, as we were talking about, the element of flat is really about taking one trick and another trick and linking them together as far as combos go. You see right here, Lee having a little bit of trouble trying to make the most of his time. So it looks like the clock's gonna wind down, and how's he gonna wrap it up? 180 bar spin, taking a little bit of that street style.
And as much as 3 minutes can seem like a long time, it goes by really fast when you're on.
Yeah, so Lee looking to go for some type of street variation here, going backwards fakie.
We are actually probably in his little best trick moment here, because every rider has 3 minutes to do all of his combo, all of his tricks, and make it as smooth as possible. And the judges will be looking for originality, technical difficulty, and consistency. So we want riders to be able to ride and link tricks the whole way through. But then at the end of their 3 minutes, they have the chance to really wow the crowd with a best trick. So we have Mr. Moya on the flat 9 zone now.
Alberto right there on the front wheel wrapping around.
Yeah.
Yeah, look how he's able to put his weight behind his seat right there, no-handed. And again, using the pumping.
Look how slow he's going too. That takes an amazing amount of balance.
Look at that too, putting his weight down, able to grab the frame. That style, nicely done.
Yep.
So that's what you're talking about too, Dom, where it's full run, full combos, linking together, did not touch down once, and also putting in tons of style. I loved seeing the way that he just dropped his body weight as opposed to being more vertical, what you would do when you would actually be rotating around on a tighter spin.
Exactly, and look at the speed that he's, when he does rotations, he goes a lot slower than many other riders that we're going to see, and that is extremely difficult to do. This guy, Alberto Moya, has a lot of balance.
So right now he actually has 2 solid combos down, making most of the time out here.
First foot down.
But again, the thing that the judges, going for very difficult combos right here, the judges know that, and they're going to give a, yeah, you see just barely hanging on with his back toes on that peg. But they're, yes, jumping over, grabbing both feet right there.
So not using his hands very much in many of his tricks, and that is quite impressive as well.
So starting out. Again, getting that pump style on that front wheel to gain speed. I mentioned scuffing used to be big maybe about 10, 15 years ago, and then it wound up coming to this style where you could almost gain and generate speed by pumping on your front wheel. So having a really solid run out here.
And nothing is rushed with this rider. He's taking his time to really properly do every single figure.
Yeah, going backwards right there. You see he's able to build momentum. That was that pump, touching down, but still a very unique combo right there.
Exactly. So I think Alberto is definitely going for the originality here, and definitely technical difficulty as well.
You see he's got one brake on his bike, the front brake, but not using it at all, because as we mentioned, a lot of no-handed tricks, completely switching his momentum around, going backwards into forwards.
Without using his hands. It's pretty...
Sticking it clean right there.
all dressed in black on a black floor. He must be quite warm. Preparing for best trick now.
Yeah, so it looks like the rider's going to have 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, but then allowing for that best trick time. So they're out here. This is where you want to see the biggest, hardest combos go down. Oh, looking to wrap around the front end right there. Very difficult, looking to balance, wrap around the front end of the bike.
And I think he wanted to go for that, and it didn't go quite as planned.
See, getting a well-deserved high five from Alex Jumelin, who's yet to ride.
So Kevin Nikolsky from Berlin.
Whatever you start, we drop the clock. Yes, Kevin Nikolsky.
Getting ready, and you can see all like the difference in stuff. We're going for amplitude here, big wide turns, and much faster spins.
So you saw he actually took his hands off, spun the bars around, and held the front end of the bike up with his foot. Are you kidding? He's on the pedals. Yes, big solid start right there. So as you mentioned too, the confidence level coming out, charging, tons of spins, also a lot of variations through the bar spin, and got on the pedals at the end right there.
Yeah.
Hopping around. Balancing on that front wheel, front peg, stepping over the crossbar. Are you kidding me? Still very impressive.
So you notice the difference in speed that he's going from the previous rider, Alberto Moya. And like we said, the crowd loves when the riders are standing nice and tall and they go really, really, really fast. But this is actually not as difficult to do technically as the slower spins.
Very nice combination, big focus on that front wheel. You see about 70 seconds on that clock.
And I have to say, this is something I saw a lot of time before, where the crowd does not seem to approve the judges' decisions when it comes to points at the end, because what they like to see and what the judges like to see sometimes might be a little bit different.
Yeah, well, it's a very good point that you bring up. But are you kidding? Upside down. Look at the footwork, hopping from one peg to the other and actually scuffing a little bit, where he's using his foot on that back tire to maintain speed and balance. And going up one foot, it looks like on the pedal. Both feet on the pedals, over the top tube, solid.
30 seconds.
So much of a rider's style as well will definitely be from where their scene is, with their friends, where they wind up riding on a regular basis. And a lot of it, believe it or not, also comes down to their local spot and the texture of their parking lot and the composition of the concrete they're riding on. So sometimes it's the big variation when a rider's used to riding, let's say, on a parking lot that's either a little bit pitched or flat, and then coming to this where we have a platform that's actually constructed out of wood. Even though it's a perfect surface, even though it's a perfect surface, it definitely can roll a little bit different on a rider's tire.
The adherence is going to be different from one surface to the other. If they're used to concrete, it can be quite different than wood. And the bounciness too of it, because this is a platform, this is a solid ground, so that I'm sure that can make a difference in the way that when the riders are pushing, even though it is a solid flat surface.
Absolutely, and the riders are so precise with their bikes. They can feel the slightest little bit, even if there's a pebble on the ground or if there's even a slight pitch, whether it's just 1 degree as far as the ground goes.
Varro and Hernandez from France. Hernandez Varro, sorry.
Varro Hernandez qui ont encore action with shot.
Not from France. I believe he is from Madrid. With a name like that would make more sense.
C'est parti pour lui, Varro.
So let's see, Varro starting out on his back peg right there, flipping the bike upside down. Getting that rotation going, grabbing the front pegs. Let's see, is he going to try to step over? Nope. Touching down. So again, most of the riders actually brakeless out here. We've only seen one rocking that front brake.
And as you said earlier, the geometry of the bike is going to change a lot from one rider to the other.
One of the first riders to really start experimenting with no brakes or even switching where the traditional levers go is Chase Guin, who's a flat legend, who I had an opportunity to actually ride with many years back at Changa World out in Ohio. Oh, look at that, saving it right there, putting the foot down on the peg, putting the bar down. But Chase was one of the pioneers, not only inventing a lot of tricks, but also I remember when flatland riders around the world would see a picture in Ride magazine of Chase bike setup, and sometimes he'd have the brake lever on the different side, or he'd be running no brakes or two front brakes. So it's really interesting to see that now in 2015. Yeah, very cool. In 2015, most riders don't even have brakes at all, and they're able to get that pump and that speed.
And I would say, like, you know, having the less parts you have on your bike, the more simple it is, and the easier it is to deal with. Because like we mentioned yesterday, a wheel that isn't true, if you do have a brake on it, you have so much more maintenance to do on that, as well as the brake wires. When you're passing your foot from one side to the other of the bike, you don't want to have something that may catch the tip of your toes and make you trip over. So that might be I guess you could have internal brakes, but
I think the beauty of, yeah, you bring up a very good point, Tom. I think the beauty of it when you have no brakes on your bike as well, if your rim gets bent, you don't have to worry about the pads hitting the rim any which way. And bikes without brakes definitely just look super dialed and clean. Look at that, on the back pegs, both feet going up to a nose manual right there.
And we can guess this is why he does have something on to protect his wrist, because this kind of fall, you definitely put your hands first, like he just did.
It looked like then to maybe hop into a hang five.
We're going for best trick now.
So let's see, is he going to stick with the same trick, or is he going to move on to something else now that the clock has wound down? So on that front wheel, hopping over the top tube, switching it up. So if you're just joining us, this is BMX Flatland Qualifications right now.
Yep.
Mr. Hernandez going for his best trick out here. Going for a very unique combo. Landed on his butt. Thankfully he's all right. Waving it on off. Believe it or not, Tom, even though the riders are on the flat ground, you can definitely get worked and get really hurt out there. You see he's got a wrist brace on. Not only sprains, bruises, cuts, and bangs, but right now he's putting it all in the line for the fans out here, going for best tricks, stepping over again that crossbar, switching his feet opposite right there. Trying to bar spin around and hop to pedals, but getting a little bit twisted.
Crowd is very happy to be there to watch the show and to watch the riders really give it all they've got. Thomas Noyer, next on the flatland zone.
Yes, Thomas, c'est quand tu veux. 2 minutes 30.
Thomas starting things off on the front wheel as well, whipping that frame around. Yeah, right onto the pedal, getting a quick scuff right there. So that's the interesting thing too, Dom, with the judges, as far as breaking down what the riders are doing. You know, they're seeing a lot of these tricks for the first time as well, because it's about the combinations between them and linking them together. So sometimes you don't even know which direction a rider is going to go. Even a lot of times you'll see a rider, their weight will wind up going a certain direction, and they completely switch up their trick order or their run order. Keeping it on that front wheel, spinning around, and that's what you're talking about by putting his weight vertically right there, able to increase the spin, pumping on the front wheel, gaining speed. And looking to step around that top tube, but winds up popping up over the handlebars. So Thomas out here. Looking super comfortable on that front end. Minute down, about a minute and a half to go.
And Thomas has been to the FISE before, so he sure knows about how to get the crowd going and how to get that energy working for him.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the crowd again, for anybody who's watching at home, do yourself a favor. If you're in Europe, get out here today, tomorrow, the next day.
You still have a few more days in front of you.
I've never been to an event like this. Yeah, putting the foot on the pedal, getting a quick scuff in. If you are somewhere else in the world, if you can't get a plane ticket, you can't jump on a train, plan it next year. This is one-of-a-kind party I've never been to. I've never seen a crowd like this that's so into all of our action sports that we have out here.
And mark your calendars for next year, that's for sure, because next year is going to be the 20th edition of the FISE. So big surprises we had here on this TV set for this morning. Hervé André Benoit, the big boss, he said definitely some surprises, things that are going to be coming back, disciplines that we saw at the beginning of the FISE may do a little comeback. Big legends of the sport may come, of all the different disciplines, may come to say a little hello.
Well, 20 years is a lot of history to pull from and to work within. So again, right now the clock is winding down, but he's going to have an opportunity to keep it going for best trick as well. You know, and it's interesting to see what a rider will wind up pulling for best trick. You actually see right there he's got some bar ends on his pegs to kind of protect maybe if he falls down, or maybe even some rolling tricks if he leans the bike over on the side. So much about Flatland is a rider's unique setup. Yes, on the pedal right there.
Here we go.
Nice, whiplashing around, putting his foot on the pedal and then hopping back down. So again, if a rider's on his pegs or his pedal, it makes such a big difference, especially where you have to put your weight as far as leaning over the handlebars or leaning over the back of the bike.
And if you guys are watching us and if you are on social media, don't hesitate, come to like our page on Facebook, facebook.com/FISE.officiel, EL at the end. We now have Kevin Jacob from France, and you can also, if you're watching us right now, you did find us, but don't hesitate to share the FISE.tv link so everybody can watch as well, and we can also watch all the live in English and on edgesports.com.
Yeah, so Kevin out to a very solid start. You saw that nose manual he popped up into, and it looked like he actually did a pedal full crank and then linked everything together. So Kevin's extremely comfortable on his front wheel. Great energy, great links. This is a very good start to his run. So Kevin, you see cross-footed right there. Going up for that nose manual. Very difficult. You have to put that weight so far over the handlebars. Yeah, right into a whiplash around. So on that front end, let's see if he's going for that same link. So pressing up in the nose manual. And then the whiplash is when the bike tail whips around. Yes, great start right there. Awesome. Kicking the frame around 2 times. Very unique combo. So again, we're seeing the uniqueness of just, let's say, a traditional whiplash where he put the nose manual in the beginning, also had cross-footed, and then whiplashed around twice. So you can see the way that these combinations of tricks play in, where you could almost go with what was more of a beginner kind of trick that has a lot of history and roots, but link it together, and Kevin's really making it his own right now. Yes.
That was a close one.
I was one of the judges. I'd give it to him. I mean, if you're,
I think so. It pretty much had both wheels down and both feet down, but then wasn't able to keep the position for very long. I don't know where's the cutting line. No?
It's a hard one. I think a lot of it, though, you know, it's an overall impression of your 2.5 minutes out there, so that's going to play a big factor. And again, we're taking 12 riders into our finals, which, you know, to make that cut, it's really cool that the riders out here get a chance. Even though 2 riders aren't going to make it, everyone has a chance to showcase their flatland, which is so cool. Because a lot of these riders, Dom, you know, spend a lot of time, countless hours, thousands of hours by themselves. So it's awesome getting the chance to showcase their riding to a really responsive crowd out here. So again, he's starting on that front wheel, whiplashing it around. So that's going to wrap it up right there. Let's see if Kevin might actually try to pull another one, or he's going to wave it off. No, he wants
Cameramen
it.
just sure love the ladies in Montpellier.
I think all the riders love the ladies as well. Look
Yeah.
at that. Oh, putting his foot on the stem right there.
And I have to say, a lot of the ladies love the riders as well. So I think it's just like sharing love over there.
I know that's one of the favorite part of not only the crowd, not only the riding, but I definitely know a lot of riders come out here for those pretty ladies that are cheering up right there, looking to put his foot on the stem. So again, you're seeing a whiplash, but actually upping the ante as opposed to just stepping over the top tube of the bike, putting the foot on his balance point, which changes the entire trick. But Kevin with a very solid run right there. You'll see what the judges wind up thinking at the end. We'll probably take a look at some scores, but impressive run right there for Kevin.
Absolutely, he doesn't seem super happy with because he wasn't able to fully nail down his last trick. But I think he can be happy with the overall run. Next rider on course here,
Okay, Dan Hennig.
Dan Hennig.
Whenever you're ready, Dan. You know we do. We've been here before. DJ, what's up?
So you see rocking one brake on the front, no brake on the back. So again, unique bike setups, but a lot of these bikes that look like street setups, and again, for all of our riders out there, you know what we're talking about, where it's almost a geometry that you'd ride at a park or on street as opposed to a traditional flatland that has very steep angles that would maybe make tricks, quote-unquote, easier to find balance points. So in 2015, you're seeing a lot of that blend and hybrid. But Dan's starting things off, rolling megaspin on the back peg. Let's see if he's gonna go up to the front, grabbing that front peg. Can right there, putting his foot under the frame. Having a little bit of trouble. Again, Dom, I'm wondering what the wind factor down there, because from our house up here, we definitely feel a very strong wind.
And one other thing too that I think may change something for the riders, excuse me, is all the dust and the pollen that comes from with the wind. And I mean, the wind has been so strong that there's even a tree that fell last night, full-on tree. So can you imagine all the pollen is just flying in the air, and of course going on the track here, just on the riverside. It's all dirt, little dirt path and gravel path. So there's a lot of dust flying through. So that could potentially make the flatland zone slippery, or it changes the adherence. So the riders have to adjust to that as well.
Yeah, Dom, that's a very good point you're bringing up, because you could even actually see on Dan's tires, there's a little bit of dust and dirt right there. Going fakey. Let's see where he's going. Oh, yes. Hopping around, putting his foot on the front peg, almost doing a fakey tail whip. I wasn't sure if he's going to try to glide out of that or where he's going. But what you're talking about as far as that dust or pollen, a rider is so precise with his bicycle. It's almost like an artist where they can touch and feel, and let's say paper, even a human being can feel the thickness of a piece of paper. These riders can feel that with their bike, with their tires, and the composition touching down on the surface. So even if there is a slight little bit of pollen or dust, definitely can play a factor. And again, we're taking a look at Dan's wheels, and you do see a little bit of dust on there, but he's riding great out here, so doesn't seem to be affecting him too badly.
No, exactly. And I mean, they have been riding on there for a few hours already, if not a few days. And I mean, there is dust everywhere right now. Everything is like dust is just flying around. So it is a challenge. It's something to adapt. But these guys are pros. That's their job, and they know what they're doing.
Super unique combo. Dan actually stepping over that top tube. Let's see if he gives it another swing. I actually would love to see this right here. So again, as we mentioned too, Flatland has gotten to its own realm where a lot of these tricks don't even have names, believe it or not. I had an opportunity to ride with Scott Powell in the Middle East. We actually did a lot of shows for the troops over there. Scott Powell is a Flatland wizard. He's gone beyond that. He's a master and he was describing to me how there's so many tricks, a lot of them really don't have names. Riders just push their own style at this day and age in 2015. So right now, going backwards, yeah. Looking to bunny hop, tail whip around, land on that front peg. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah.
There you go. Getting that balance
Nice
point.
combo. Very close to the ground.
Crowd is loving Dan. Great combo. Let's see how he wraps it up. Oh!
Oh!
Going a step over, turning it up a few notches right there. Big props. So that's the thing. He could have the opportunity to just put his foot down on the pedal, but said, hey, let's step it up. Let's cross foot, hop over that top tube. You know, paying the price, putting the foot down, but the judges definitely see that increased difficulty, even as opposed to putting his feet down, so we're going to see how that winds up panning out.
So we just did our seven first riders. We're gonna have a little break here for the riders, so they can warm up again, and so they don't cool down too much before their run, and it gives a little bit of time to the judges as well to deliberate.
Yeah, that's such an important part, too, when we're talking about BMX Flatland. The fact that, you know, obviously it's like the riders have 2.5 minutes out on the course. You'd be like, oh, that's a lot of time, but so much of it really comes down to perfection at that moment. So we're going to take a look under the hood of some of our riding right here to see. First rider, Lee, who wound up opening up the event. You see on that back wheel spinning the bars around 2 times right there, getting some cheers on from the ladies. And look at this, I loved seeing grabbing the top tube with his foot and his ankle, but the best part about that, dipping down low, bringing his own style out here. That's such an important factor, your own style, and I love the way that he flips the rotation around. We might get a chance to see going backwards. So graceful.
Yeah. This rider, you could see, it's amazing to see the difference in style, difference in tricks and combination between the different riders. Even though they are doing the same sports, and even if it's the same trick, there's always a little tweaking in between the riders, different ways to do everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the important thing about, you know, all action sports in general is kind of bringing your own flavor, your own style to the game. Very cool hop into the pedal right there.
And sometimes what's going to make a big difference is the physiology of the rider. A rider like Mathias Dandois, who's really long and skinny, he's going to be riding totally differently than the riders more short and stocky. And I would say in BMX flat, it's the BMX discipline where we see the taller riders and skinnier riders, as opposed to the other freestyle disciplines where the guys are usually like their center of gravity is lower. They're more like little balls of muscles and to whip things around, and it's something that you see a lot in the different freestyle sports as well.
Yeah, and that's also what definitely determines a rider's setup, even as far as how the size of the frame. You know, a big part of BMX, you have different geometry of a bicycle, and the front end of the front triangle of a bicycle, you could get a certain length, and obviously if a rider's taller, they might get a longer front end or even a different length back end, which is definitely going to affect as hard as a rider has to pull up or where the balance point is. So a lot of times, like you said, with somebody like Mathias Dandois, who actually has his own signature bike out on Haro, just came out, so he has his own geometry and kind of able for his own specifications that he likes. So it's cool to see that riders also are even adapting that to street, and the bikes are kind of really starting to hybrid and come together. So right now we're taking another look at our crowd out there, Dom. So unbelievable. It's so
Look
cool.
how packed it is, like right from the fence all the way up to the street. Look at this.
The fact that there's over 500,000 people that come to FISE is unbelievable. It's jaw-dropping, it's mesmerizing, and it's amazing, especially considering that I have the opportunity to go to most of the large action sports events around the world. I've never been to an event of this size where the fans are this passionate about BMX, also about mountain biking, inline, also our wakeboarding as well. It's just so cool to see that energy come together here.
Yeah, it's really an amazing vibe. Even just walking through the crowd, you can feel people, everybody's so excited to be here. I mean, I saw some kids earlier, that tiny kids, 5, 6 years old. They're stoked to be here. They're stoked to be watching the guys and the girls too ride and all different sports. It gives them the opportunity to discover disciplines that they maybe never thought of trying before. Here we go. So next rider is number 8, Lee Siogun, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, Jean Boulon, Dustin Alt, Jeremy Brosset, Beau Wade, Alexandre Jumelin, and the 14th rider will be Mathias Dandois.
So we're taking a look at all of our riders up there. Again, we had 7 riders go, 7 to go. Very heavy stack right there. But again, the cool thing about FISE, it's open invitation, so we are going to see a couple riders who that I personally haven't had an opportunity to see ride before. And it's always exciting, and that's the great part about FISE, especially we saw yesterday in our BMX spine qualifiers. It was open to whoever wanted to come on down. We saw some awesome French riders letting it rip. And later tonight, we're actually going to have our BMX spine finals, which is always one of the best events here at FISE. And if yesterday the qualifier was a preview of what's to come, you definitely do not want to miss. So again, we're going to give our riders a few more moments. They're kind of getting that blood flowing, getting warmed up. Such an important part is to be able to pull the trigger and shoot your target when it counts. And doing that in 2.5 minutes is definitely no easy task.
No, and just like many other disciplines, BMX flat riders, they need a lot of flexibility, so they can't be all stiff and cold. It's really important for them to slowly warm up and get their body ready to perform to the way they want it to perform.
Yeah, but it's such an important factor too. I mean, to make sure not only is your bike fine-tuned, but also that your body and brain, because again, flatland takes so much focus. I had an opportunity in the early 2000s to spend a lot of time in my hometown of New York City at Union Square. And for all of our street riders out there, it was around the time the birth of Animal bikes started up. But there was a big flatland scene at Union Square, and we'd have riders out there just putting in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours on end. Just really cool to see the dedication of that commitment to wind up pulling tricks, and again, where you could wind up having your own spin on it. So it looks like we're getting ready to kick off our next 7 riders here. So the way it works, 2 minutes 30 seconds are on the clock. Each rider's going to have an opportunity to strut their stuff. For the judges, where originality, creativity, and difficulty of tricks is really what plays the name of the game. And then they're going to have an opportunity at best trick. So what that means too, they have an opportunity to pull as many times as they want to try to knock out their best material.
So Lee Seong-gun on the course, on the zone, in the zone as well.
Yeah. In the zone is definitely where a rider wants to be. So we see Lee focusing on that front wheel. Let's see if he continues for the rest of the time. Going up to a hang 5, finding that balance point. So that's another thing as well. Your balance point you can either use for your body as far as your weight, or if you have a limb off. Like right there, you see his right leg actually helping with that balance. You see him swinging it back and forth, but then hopping over his handlebars, looking for that peg.
Yep, the leg up like this is definitely the principle of having a tail. It's the same thing for, it's true, it's a question of balance. You have something behind you balancing and doing an extension of your body, so.
Getting up on the pedals right there, grabbing the 2 front pegs. Yeah, letting that tail dangle. So let's see if he's going to continue his clock winding down for him. But again, solid run, big tricks. Going back up on the pedals right there. Yes, grabbing the 2 front pegs. Not able to keep the rotation. Not only is it hard to get up in that position, but to get out is really interesting to see. Is he going to wind up stomping back down on the rear pegs, or go for a unique variation out?
That's true. It's a very good point you're bringing here. It's always intricate to see how they're going to get to that position. But it's always, we often forget how because they need to get out of there as well and come back to their pedals and put their bike down and wrap up the trick.
So there you see, coming around, scuffing a few times, hopping the pedals.
Okay, leave 30 seconds.
30 seconds are on that clock, counting down. So how's Lee gonna wrap her up? As you see, cross-footed right there on the back peg. Oh, keeps going to pop up on the pedals over the head tube.
Needs a little bit of encouragement from the crowd. That always helps.
Yeah, getting in there. Oh, you actually see grabbing the front pegs and pedaling as well. So that's going to change your entire spin and rotation. So it looks like this is the last trick. Is Lee going to stick with this variation, or do you have something else up those short sleeves?
Allez, Montpellier, un peu plus de bruit que ça, s'il vous plaît.
Not only are these tricks extremely difficult, but definitely some nerves can be at play as well. Yeah!
On peut applaudir Lee encore une fois, s'il vous plaît.
Yeah, Lee throwing up the one more. The crowd's getting a little bit louder. That's always a good sign. Throwing his hands up in the air right there. You're getting a little love from the crowd out here.
Allez, le suivant.
So we're still if you just joined us, we're in the middle of the qualification for BMX flat. We have 14 riders today, and 12 of them are going to go into the finals. We are in the second part, so we are watching our 9th rider on the spot right now. This is the 19th edition of the FISE World Montpellier, and as you can see, the sun is shining as usual. The crowd is definitely present.
So Gene's sticking a good combination right there. Having a little bit of a boggle. Camera cut away, but wound up hopping over the handlebars. So again, it's overall that the judges want to see out here. So a big part of it too is the confidence level on the bike. Like you were mentioning, at the end of a run, really sticking it cleanly to pedals, really being defined in the tricks that you're doing. Then your own personal style, yeah. Hopping over that top tube, putting both feet on the pegs. So far, 2 clean links. 1 minute down, getting the crowd support. Gene looking psyched right now. Ooh, interesting way to get into that, hopping over that top tube as the frame is whipping around. So you see, getting
takes
that
a lot of timing, and you need to have excellent body awareness and bike awareness as well. Know where everything is at all times.
So it's all about that momentum. You see it sticking on that front end, actually going for that momentum, trying to get that spin, linking it together.
40 seconds left for Jean Bulon.
Allez, Montpellier, il a besoin de vous, Jean.
Come on. Clock is ticking down. Ooh. Full bar spin, putting his opposite foot down on the front peg right there.
That is a solid trick.
So he had a couple of touchdowns, but all in all, looking good out here.
Ready for best trick.
Ooh.
So I don't know if you can hear in the crowd in the background that allez. This is something that you hear a lot here in Montpellier, and even like on social media, the riders, every time they're like going to FISE, allez, they always say that. So basically, allez in French means go. So it's a typical encouragement from the crowd.
c'est Dustin Alt.
Dustin out on the course right now. Let's see what this rider has up his sleeve.
Dustin has a really cool style.
Gaining him speed here.
Look at that. You see him also putting that back leg, his leg putting it behind him to keep that momentum rotating. Going up right there. Yeah, look at his arm too. He's holding onto the grip behind his back and then reaching around. Great first combination. Yeah, on that front peg, you see him switching left to right, right to left. Getting vertical, as you mentioned, to keep his rotation going around. Using that leg as his balance point, pumping for speed. Yes! Mr. Alt right there. 2 clean links and combinations down under his belt. Our clock is 1 minute, 30 seconds to go. Let's see if he can keep that momentum up. Again, we've got that crosswind you could hear howling. Look at that tree right there, but not phased. Up on the pedal, back down to the peg. Now the bike upside down, both feet on the pegs. Dustin getting speed and momentum. Ah, first touchdown though, very impressive. 1 minute remaining. Let's see if he can get back to that flawless that he had, that energy on his first 3 combinations.
And you can see that he actually placed the pedals before starting the trick, so he gets to place the pedal where he wants them because he might need them later in the trick, so he needs to know exactly where those pedals are.
Well, Dom, that's a great point too, because you not only are you spinning around, yes, but there you go, hopping to the pedal. Unbelievable right there. Putting the foot up. Yeah, that was amazing. You saw his foot on the pedal. So you mentioned that. He wound up setting his pedals up right prior to that, so he had it in the precise spot so he could hop from his back peg onto the pedal, keeping his rotation going. But the clock is winding down, 10 seconds left.
And remember too that putting your foot on the pedal and keeping your balance on there, I mean the pedal is a moving object. It's not it's not set like the pegs are, so it brings a bit of a challenge too to keep your balance on something that's already moving.
Okay, Dustin, last trick.
All right, so Dustin's going to move on, as you're hearing, to best trick. So a lot of riders too, they come here to FISE, they have something that they really want to pull and focus on for best trick. But you were mentioning the pedals as well. You see he has a very unique pedal. It's a solid platform. So reaching behind his back right there, spinning on his rear peg. Looks like Dustin's going to wind up waving it off. Very solid riding though. You know, had 1 or 2 touchdowns, but definitely had 3 or 4 solid links all together in combinations.
Yeah, absolutely. Up to the next rider. We are with Jérémy Brosset.
Yeah, look at Jeremy right there, bouncing front wheel, something really interesting, whiplashing that frame around. Kept both of his feet on the pedals, and then when it came around, actually stepped from the pegs onto the pedals right there. See if Jeremy's going to stick with that move again. Kicking it off on the pedals, whiplashing that frame around. Nice, stepping on the pedal increases the difficulty as opposed to putting his foot onto his front peg. But right now has that balance spot. Ooh. Nicely done. Had the bike whiplash the second half around. You saw him put the feet on the pedals with enough control to actually rotate the cranks. So you're seeing Jeremy with a very unique style. A lot of pedal balance tricks. Takes a lot of finesse. Especially as you were mentioning, Dom, the pedals can get moved around when a rider is in the middle of his run, where you want to put your foot where it belongs, but if the wheel touches down or the cranks wind up spinning, your excuse me, if your tire touches down, your cranks can wind up rotating, making it very difficult to kind of find that foot placement when you're mid-combination.
Exactly, or pushing it a little bit too much on the pedal and making the wheel move a little bit when you want your wheel not to be moving. That could be a...
So you saw him
It's
actually...
definitely, everything seems challenging in this discipline.
Yeah, I'm talking about challenging as well. You actually saw Jeremy do a rollade, which is a rolling decade, where you jump around the top end of that bike, which has become very popular in the last couple of years in BMX Park. Yeah, there we go, back on the pedal right there. But the decade, traditionally a flatland trick where a rider winds up jumping and wrapping his body, almost a reverse tail whip around the head tube, has become extremely popular in BMX Park. We got a couple of riders here, Kevin Peraza being one of them, who loves to throw them down now and airing out of quarter pipes, who we'll see later today in our spine contest. Yeah, there you go. There's wrapping around with the decade to wrap it up.
Come on, I can't hear you, crowd. They need the encouragement of the crowd. We saw it yesterday when the mountain biking, Medigani, who got the second place, he told us in an interview that he would not have been going if it wasn't for the crowd. So if you are, if you go see one of these contests, if you come to Montpellier, don't hesitate to express yourself for the riders and cheer them up.
Yeah, that crowd energy definitely makes a difference. We see it time and time again where, you know, a lot of riders are like, yeah, you know what, if things go well in my run, I'll maybe roll the dice, I'll throw something crazy. And half the time that adrenaline kicks in from the crowd going nuts, being down in the field, being down on the course. And you see some of the world's first happen at a contest like FISE, where all of a sudden guys really push their riding. But right now, good combination, wrapping it up. Look at that smile right there. Super psyched to wind up linking it together. So Jeremy right there getting a good run out under his belt. Again, if you're just joining us, this is BMX flat qualifying. We've got 14 riders. We're going to be taking 12 to our finals. So right now, you were talking about the idea of dust being on the course. You wind up wiping it down. It actually might be a little bit on that logo or the sticker. We talked about how sensitive riders are, really being able to feel the surface of their bike through their tires, much like we could feel the thickness of a sheet of paper.
Bo Wade asking the crowd for some cheering. So, all right, that's good. I'll make a show for you guys.
So you see a look at Bo Wade's setup right there. Pretty much every rider out there almost has a street-style bike, I'm going to say, as far as the setup goes. It's like almost looks like something you'd see out at the park, or maybe someone riding the street. So Bo starting things off on his back peg right there, looking for that balance point. Bo hyping the crowd up. Almost taking a page out of AJ Anaya's book. Always gets the crowd cheering on. All right, so Bo, back peg again. His feet are crossed over, left foot on the right peg. Able to find that balance point. Look at that, rotating around, sticking it clean. And a lot of times too, riders, you know, they have their game plan. Feels good once you get one or two combos out under the belt. And then obviously as the clock progresses, usually the difficulty of tricks progress as well.
Nice.
Yeah, Bo finding that rotation spot. See him putting his foot right under the top tubes. Yeah, sticking it around clean, bars backwards, bringing it on back. So 1 minute down, he's got a minute and a half to go. Two solid combinations.
Yes, il a besoin de vous, le Bo Wade, pour donner le meilleur. Showman à l'américaine, quoi.
So Bo finding his spot. 180 going fakie. Seeing that free coaster hopping onto his pedal, onto his peg. So that's, again, that's such a big part of flatland, is how does a rider get into and out of a position. So even right now, you see him on his rear peg with his left foot on the right peg, and we saw earlier where he actually got into that by just hopping over, and now we see coming from a rotation spin.
And there's also like when they need to grab the bike, when they decide to grab it at different places than the handlebar. We noticed with Bo Wade at the beginning of his run, he grabbed the fork instead of grabbing the peg, which we don't see many riders do. It's a different type of grab. I would personally be kind of scared for my fingers with the spokes going around. Definitely don't want to put your fingers through the spokes if they are spinning.
No, and that's a good point. Again, you can get really hurt riding flat too. I know obviously it's not ramps or doing big gaps, but I've seen a lot of riders have a lot of injuries from tears, sprains, and really focusing. Oh, going backwards right there. Back peg, looking for some type of almost like rolling backwards, downside 180 tail whip. So cool. Such an awesome moment right here. Look at the crowd. I mean, again, Flatlanders a lot of times ride by themselves. Bo is from Los Angeles, a lot of time spent in California riding by himself in parking lots. And to have a world platform like FISE, where you have so many fans cheering on, is such a cool experience for any rider.
Oh, wait, going for his last trick.
It's a bar spin right there into a peg manual, and you see him flipping his momentum around, so he's rolling forward and actually then flips it around where he's cruising backwards. Again, bar spin, peg manual, and then you see that change of momentum going backwards, and then he's looking to hop around.
One more, come on.
Come on, Bo.
He really needs the encouragement of the crowd. Sure, if he gets it, if he sticks it, then the crowd's definitely going to go nuts for him.
All right, so there's that bar spin up, peg manual, and look right there, change of momentum. He's looking to hop around that top tube, looking to kick the bike one direction and then wrap around, almost like a downside tail whip or decade, somewhere right in between the two. So you see again, there's that peg manual, change of direction. And he's looking for that money spot where you can pop around.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to call it. Very nicely done. The crowd showing some love and support out there.
Okay.
Next, two riders are going to be quite the show, and they will sure get love from the crowd. They are two favorites here in Montpellier, and the first one is the flat legend Alex Jumelin from Paris, now living in New Orleans with his little family, but coming back to France pretty soon. I think he was telling us that he decided to come spend a bit of time back in France, and Alex has been one of the probably two people who attended all 19 FISE events, so it's quite the nice record to have.
Yeah, and if you're going to talk about records as well, last year the current Nora Cup winner for Ride BMX magazine, which is an award picked by your peers by other riders, basically honoring the #1 flatland rider in the world who's been either top contest winnings or really pushing their riding to another degree. And Alex had that top honor down in Austin, Texas at Texas Toast. We saw him get the award with his whole family there. Yeah!
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
You can see how solid this is. I mean, this is Alex Jumelin's style. You can see the years of experience in just a few seconds of riding. Not even 20 seconds in. And
insane combinations. Look at that right there. Front wheel, back wheel, nose manual, G-turns.
No hesitation whatsoever.
Boomerang right there, going backwards, fakie, wrapping around the head tube. Are you kidding me? Right now, Alex just shutting it down. Two runs in of his 2.5 minutes. We're watching a master at work here.
Absolutely, and all these years of riding,
yes,
they show here. I mean, like we said before, flatland is all about experience, it's all about practice, and this is the perfect example of it. Oh, one first foot down, but
still not even that big of a deal, especially if you're coming from a crossfoot nose manual like that.
And it took a big minute to have a first foot down here.
Yes.
You can see here that the crowd loves him.
Fancy footwork
Yeah.
indeed. Popping right into that nose manual with no speed. Again, Alex having a couple of bobbles, but really not a big deal at all. He's got 1 minute left on the clock. The crowd is going nuts.
And Alex is also very involved on the BMX scene, and for up-and-coming riders, we saw yesterday on the spine ramp, the opening rider, he was not in competition, just did a few tricks. Caden was there, and Caden is only 11 years old and is now on the freerun team, thanks to Alex Jumelin. Alex knew him. Team manager asked him, who do you think we should add on the team? And Alex really wanted to give the chance to a young up-and-coming rider, and I do believe he made a very wise choice.
Well, especially if you're going to talk about young and up-and-coming, Alex has been very influential in bringing in the new breed of Flatlanders. Yes, sticking it clean. We still have one more rider to go, and that's who I'm talking about, Matthias Dandois, who was actually Alex took under his wing many years ago and kind of trained to almost be his protege in a way, even though Matthias has a different style and does different tricks. But it's so cool to see an older rider really lending his experience. Yeah! Balancing on that front wheel, and you actually can see the pivot points. So he's going forward, balance around, pivots backwards, and then popping around. But it looks like he actually wants a combo or a trick coming out. So right now, going for best trick. Front wheel pivot.
Not quite what he's looking for. Come on, Alex.
Big thing when the pressure counts, you got to just keep your cool out here. Listen to that crowd, Dom, going nuts. Nicely done, even having some problems there in his best trick. Really great run from Alex. Oh, he might want some more. What do we got? All right.
Here we go for a last rider for the BMX flat qualification. Matthias Dandois, also from Paris.
Matthias is quite the local celebrity out in Paris. I had an opportunity to spend a week with him where we had a chance to go to his local bar, Tapes, have a good time. He showed me all around the city, and everywhere we went, people absolutely love Matthias for good reason. Not only is his riding world-class, world caliber, but just one of the nicest guys out there.
Oh, absolutely. Every time he's, look at that big smile.
Yeah, that's
How
his
can
signature.
you not like that?
That's his signature right there, big smile. But also Matthias was definitely one of the guys who wound up pushing his riding to new heights and really bringing a hybrid as far as bringing street into flat and vice versa. And you had guys definitely in the 80s and the 90s with Mark Eaton who really pushed that hybrid style, but Matthias is kind of doing that modern day, and it's so interesting to see. So let's see if he winds up bringing a little bit of that street style here. Yeah, and there you go, doing a cab 540. So 180 backwards and getting that full rotation. Look at that right there. You're talking about Matthias as well, having those long limbs and just looking beautiful, gliding right there on that front peg.
And the further you can extend, the easier it is for balance as well. So.
Are you kidding me? Look at Matthias with that spin right there.
And the crowd goes nuts for fast spins, for sure. How can he not get dizzy?
Years and years and years of practice.
Yeah.
Nice. Matthias sticking it very clean.
Well-deserved fist bump.
So focus right there. You see Matthias. It's a look at his signature bike. On that back peg one more time. Bike upside down, hopping from left to right, right to left with his feet. Look at that again, using his leg for that balance point, and now rotating around. You see him pumping again, building that momentum. Spinning the bars, rotating around with just about 60 seconds left on the clock. This is a very solid run we're seeing from Matthias. Clock winding down, 60 seconds to go. Let's see if he can keep this consistency. Oof. Going backwards, full cab, into a nose manual. Rotate around. What?
Whoa.
Hopping right over the handlebars. It takes so much pop to jump and not get your feet clipped on those bars. Yeah, Matthias.
This is also a very experienced rider. We can only barely imagine how many hours of practice and hours spent on the bike from Matthias.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to actually go to Matthias's hometown with his family, where in his backyard, growing up, most riders would say, hey, Dad, can you build me a ramp in the backyard? But Matthias asked for a round deck to be built out of wood that's about 20 feet in diameter, and that's actually where Matthias spent thousands of hours riding and perfecting his style. And since it's a circle that he grew up riding on, that's why a lot of times Matthias's tricks involve having a spin or a rotation, because he had a smaller platform to work on as opposed to a huge parking lot, and that's where he'd always spend his hours riding.
Matthias is now done with his run, and we're going to see what he has for best trick. This is the last riders of the qualification. We had 14 riders, 12 of them are going to go in the finals. A little bit of water needed because so much dust in the air and in the eyes probably.
Just grabbing a quick sip, getting ready. Everyone here at FISE is watching, all eyes on Matthias. Let's see what Mr. Dandois is going to pull out. Oof. Going on that back wheel, rotating around. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Crazy combination right there. From
First try.
Back wheel to the front wheel, the nose press, and then cabbing around with that whip.
Big star here in Montpellier. He is happy with his performance. That was our last rider for a qualification. In a few seconds, we're going to go check out again the highlights of the second part. For the last 7 riders on the BMX flat qualification.
So you see that camaraderie out there as well. You see Matthias with Alex and Bo giving each other pounds. And again, BMX, even though it's a competition out here, everyone's having a great time. Look at the crowd just bringing it in. And so cool that BMX Flatland is a part of FISE and also showcased this way, where the crowd is so engaged. Because again, it takes thousands of hours to pull some of these tricks that we're looking at right now, where you have that balance point and there's little details where you're able to put your feet on the pedals and rotate around. And again, have that showcase here is just an unbelievable experience.
So a few little highlights of our last 7 riders, and we're gonna watch those best moments that we just saw for the qualification. 12 out of 14 riders are going to go, but we are not going to know right now because the judges will take some time to deliberate. There's no heat in the contest, so they have to really take the time to judge every single rider. It's a long task. It's a difficult task, that's for sure, and we're gonna have a little bit of a surprise when we get to the finals, because no results for us today.
Yeah, and even though we're taking 12 of the 14, where you're saying, hey, you know, 2 guys aren't making it, the important part is that Flatland is being showcased. The crowd is loving getting an opportunity to see firsthand some of the best riders in the world out here really strutting their stuff, and that energy you can feel, especially as we wind up progressing and with our last 3 riders. Bo Wade, who we're taking a look at right here, balancing on that back peg and flipping around his bike and able to have that rotation spot.
Always trying to get the energy of the crowd, because that makes a huge difference for the riders. To have the crowd cheering, it really helps them push their limits and perform to the maximum.
Yeah, and if you're going to talk about crowd, always a crowd favorite, Alex, so impressive. I loved seeing on his first combination how he dropped down right onto the front peg like that. Such a cool combo. Yeah. And then Matthias right there, a 540 cab, rotating around. Big riding out of Matthias, barely touching down at all the entire time. and then hopefully we get a look at his best trick, which was so impressive on his back wheel, popping onto his front, and then wind up doing that cab whip out.
Great run by Matthias. Really great last trick too. Great qualification overall, Daryl. We're gonna wrap it up for today for BMX flat, but we're not done for BMX for the day. We're gonna see you tonight at 9:30 for the final of the spine ramp. But before, we're gonna have rollerblade slopestyle at 5:50. I've got mixed up. We're way past 3:30 right now. So 5:50 roller slopestyle inline skate, and 9:30 we'll see you again for the final of the spine ramp.
Well, as you said, Dom, we just had qualifications for flat, which is so cool seeing the energy out here of the crowd. But to all of our BMX fans around the world, make sure you tune in. Doesn't matter what time zone you're in. You could wind up Googling, figuring out where you are. For everyone in New York, where my hometown is, that's 6 hours. California, that's 9. So figure out the math. I know I'm throwing out to everybody in the U.S., but wherever you are, tune in at 9:30 French time to see some of the best mini ramp riding in the world. Qualifications yesterday was nuts.
Amazing.
55 riders. We cut the pack down, and there's always world firsts that happen here, so it's going to be one heck of a show.
Absolutely. Check us out on FISE.tv and edgesports.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/FISE.officiel. EL at the end, at FISE World on Twitter, at FISE World on Instagram, #FISE World. You can find us if you look for us, and we'll see you a little bit later.